Hey, good to see you. It's been such a long time. I hope you're doing well. So, just like to say a few things, and I thank you for the very kind introduction, but I think it paints too rosy a picture. So maybe it's time to be. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
No?
Oh, well, you could, for some people, louder is better.
Louder is better?
Yes.
Is that better? Okay.
Yes.
So maybe this is a truer picture because, the advert doesn't always, on the tin, doesn't actually tell you what's actually inside. So maybe this. When I was younger, you know, I tried to play it cool, very short, very impatient, short-tempered, often angry, but often had to hold it inside to suppress this anger so as not to blow this kind of cool kind of image that I had of myself. Then I used to think that work and career were the only things that mattered, and other things not so much. Didn't like religion because when I was at school, was made to attend uh, services every single day in the morning. It's a Church of England Anglican school, so that really set me against any form of organized religion. So became an atheist, agnostic, but very fortunately met Zen Master Dae in 1992, where I felt that I'd been given a kick up the butt, metaphorically speaking, and that, as they say, changed my life from that point on. And so I think that's it. Any questions?
Francisco has a question.
Yeah, hi, Myong.
Hi.
Great to see you again.
Yes, lovely to see you.
I think you anticipated the point of my question. I was going to start simply offering gratitude to you. One of my enduring memories of Myong Sunim, though we have crossed paths since, is 2006 when there was a trip to Korea for all of the people who were going to Dae Sansanim's the anniversary ceremony of his passing. And there were two options for the trip. There was a longer trip that was, I think, called the Dragon trip, and the shorter version of the trip that cost a little less was called the Tiger version. And so the few Tiger people who went back to Seoul, we were basically babysat by Myong Sunim. Myong Sunim took very sweet and kind care of us. And one of the highlights of the couple days we spent in Seoul before boarding our planes home was to get a walking tour of the old city of the old part of Seoul. And that's one of my enduring memories of him is us like school children in some sense, walking single file behind him quietly in the soft rain in Old Town Korea and seeing the sights and going to different Buddhist temples, some of the older Buddhist temples in Seoul, and then going for a really, really delicious vegan meal in some mom and pop little restaurant underground in a basement. And I remember talking with him. At the time, I was not vegetarian. I was eating everything at that time. And I remember him saying to me, well, I just got to this point where I can't eat anything that has a face anymore. And that has really stayed with me. Now, I moved here to Cambridge Zen Center almost 6 months ago, early November, and since then have pretty much become a vegan. Had been thinking about it for some time. And my body is much happier. I feel much better. I feel much healthier. I've lost weight. And in part, it's your inspiration and your, the reverberation of your teaching and your kindness back then that motivated me towards these steps. So I just wanted to thank you for that. And my question was going to be like, at what point in your life, did you decide to become a vegan, and what motivated you to become a monk? But I think you kind of answered that already. But I'll let you run with that.
Okay, thank you, Francisco. Really appreciate your sharing and your question. Congratulations on going on a plant-based diet. I don't know the exact point of when I decided to go on a plant-based diet. I think I attempted it. I attempted to do it when I was still a lay person. I think first of all, I did it out of a sense of kind of repentance or hope, because my dad, when I was in the UK working, my dad got diagnosed with stage 3, stage 4 colon cancer. Then I said, okay, as a sort of way of maybe helping or something, I start to eat plant-based food for for most of my meals. I wasn't completely plant-based, but for most of my meals, in a way to, and especially on this start of the month and the middle of the month, which is kind of a Asian Buddhist thing. And then when I moved to Hong Kong and encountered the Zen Masters Dae Bong, after a while I thought, why don't I just go the whole hog and just be plant-based? And it worked okay for a short while, but at work it was kind of difficult, because usually at lunch we'd go for meals together. It's kind of a thing, and then my colleagues would kind of have to figure out some place that did vegetarian options at least, and none of them were vegetarian. So then then they had this. Then one occasion that gave me kind of a question about it was this. We had a visit from one of our bigwigs from the States, and he came over, and it's like this big review of our whole department and function. So everything was all planned for him, big banquets and stuff like that. And then the secretaries had to organize a special vegetarian meal for me, and I was the only one that had vegetarian food. Everybody else was eating, doing together action, and I wasn't. So then the next time Sunim came, I said, what do I do? I feel so kind of different, so out of place, that everybody has to cater for me. Should I continue with this vegetarian diet? Because I think it's an important thing to do. And he said something which I always will remember. I was I'm so grateful for him for saying that, because it took this weight of guilt off me. He said, when you have a choice, then choose to eat vegetarian. But when you're going out with the other people, just eat what they eat. And I thought, wow, that was just so wonderful. I was really grateful for that. So I did that for when I was still a layperson working. Then it felt so much easier. That people also felt a lot easier. They didn't have to worry about me and whether it was going to be awkward and so forth. So then when I became a monk, then it's very clear. Just eat vegetarian food, plant-based foods. And so I think it was a kind of an experiment and transition into adjusting how things go. But I think what Sunim said was really great, and it really helped me a lot. So does that answer your question, Francisco?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, I hope there's so much great plant-based foods now, impossible foods. I had it once and I couldn't tell the difference, to be honest. I don't remember very well, because it's 20 plus years ago since I ate a real burger. but it was amazing. So there's yeah, a lot of options now than before. So
I agree.
yeah.
You're right. We're lucky. We have so many great options now of different plant-based proteins and meat substitutes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for your teaching.
We have
Thank
a
you. Thank you for your question.
Tyler has a question.
Hi,
Hello,
Tyler.
Myong. Nice to see you. So you talked about like a plant-based diet, and I was wondering, I've seen some pictures from the Hangwan Zen Center on Facebook of your two friends you were talking about at the beginning, but your two fellow residents of the canine variety. And I was wondering, you joined and kind of gotten really involved in meditation in 1992 intensively, and then you ordained in 1997. And at those two steps, I'm just wondering if your relationship to animals changed in any way.
Good question. Relationship to animals. I never really thought. I always liked dogs, and I always wanted to have one, but I was never able to because I was moving around so much, and also living in a temple. You can't really have your own personal pet unless you're the abbot, of course. Then you can pretty much do anything. But I couldn't, and I really at Musang Sao we had two dogs. First one was a white Jindoge, which is a Korean dog, and I really liked him. But unfortunately, he got some kind of bug and he died when he was like 2 years old. Then later on, somebody abandoned a dog, beautiful, I think lab mix in the mountains, because I guess with Korean apartments that's so tiny they can't handle a huge dog, and then the person that worked in the office adopted him, and he was lovely. So I always wanted one, but I could never be responsible enough to take care of it until I had this permanent permanent place. So yeah, I mean, as with practice, you start to recognize that we're not so separate from this natural world. And most of the reasons for the problems that we have is that we see ourselves as very distinct from nature, and we see it as a resource that we can kind of take whatever we want. It's like they call it the tragedy of the commons, where everybody feels that they can grab as much as they want without paying for it. And now we're seeing the consequences. So it's not just animals; it's actually the entirety of nature that we have been very bad at kind of being guardians of. And unless we learn that we're not the kind of top dog, we're actually just part of the whole part of nature, and everything else is just as equal, and we're not separate from it. We're going to continue to have these problems. We're going to continue to, if we don't learn respect, kindness to each other as human beings, to animals, to all the flora and fauna of this world, we're not going to be not going to escape the effects of cause and effect. So I think that it's important for us to start to learn how to do that. Not just animals, but take care of where we live and not just trash it, because trash never goes anywhere. It just stays on the planet. So yeah, maybe that's through having a dog. I've got to become more aware of the essential aspects of nature for us. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a question from Matt Jiang.
Hi, Matt.
Hello. Thanks for being here. I think this is the first time we met, but I was at Musangsa and I met Dae Kwan Hinjanim, so I heard about you. So thanks for being here. My question is, you were talking about how before you started Zen practice, you had a lot of anger, but you kind of like learned to suppress it. And also Myong was talking about, ideas of like what our emotional life should be versus what it really is. So ask, like, after you started practicing, how did you deal with it better?
I don't know if I dealt with it better. I guess I dealt with it differently. I don't know whether it's better or worse. You have to ask my Dharma brothers and sisters for that. But I think that, we all have this self-image of who we think we are, who we think we should be. And I certainly had that. And I didn't, talk about suppressing anger. It wasn't always successful. And sometimes it was just like, blow up like a pressure cooker. And when it did, it was a mess. It was a real mess. And I guess practice helped me realize that, what I was doing to myself and the impact it was having on others. Because when you start looking at yourself, and, it's not easy, I got to tell you, it takes time, but it's entirely worth it. Because after some time, you get to feel more comfortable inside your skin, warts and all. And, I'm not perfect. I'm still a very flawed human being. And we're all in the same. I'm not like on the other side of the river saying, hey, this is what it's like over here, come over, I'm in the same river as everyone else. And we're saying, this is kind of like, sometimes it's tough swimming upstream, but we can do it together. If we do it together, we can do it. So I think it's just giving me a bit more awareness of whenever anger appears. Sometimes I still get angry at some person does a cutscene in front of you in the fast lane or whatever, and it's stupid and it's dangerous. But you're more aware of it. And then you also have a bit more space, this paying attention, paying attention to what's in front of you gives you a little bit more space to respond and not react in the usual kind of habitual way that you might. And I think that is very, very helpful, because then you kind of don't give in so easily to the karmic habits that usually rule your life. And then you have some freedom, some lightness of being about, so he did kind of, so what, I don't have to stand on the horn or stick a finger at him. And it's okay. It doesn't really make me any later or anything. I just put on the brake. So, somehow, I don't know how it happens, but practice really does have this kind of transformative effect on how you look at things, how you respond to things, how you respond to other people, and especially yourself. And I think the biggest benefit that I've had is that, I just find more comfortable with who I am internally. And, and I can laugh at myself and my mistakes, which I make a lot of, and quite funny sometimes. But I think it's very helpful to be able to laugh at yourself, and not take yourself too seriously, especially these days, where everybody is so easily offended by anything. Just take it with a pinch of salt. Take yourself with a pinch of salt. I think that's very helpful. Then you don't get so riled up.
Yeah. Could I ask a follow-up? Does that just come from just like being aware of your internal a lot, and then you just get used to it, or?
I think it just something happens in practice. You can't sort of like, it's not a formula like ABC, because if we have this mind that doesn't know, then it's open. We're open, we can accept things which happen to us. We don't have a fixed opinion about something, about how something should be or how something should not be. And I was really good at that. I was really, that shouldn't happen that way. But if we call it don't know, just have this not knowing, which means openness and not having such a fixed idea. Anything is okay. Is curious. You can be curious about things. Then things start to happen, and don't ask me how, because it's kind of like it's a mystery, but it's a wonderful mystery. So, yeah, I think practice is really wonderful, and if we could get all the world leaders and stick them in a 90-day retreat, we'd have a much more peaceful world.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your question.
We have a question from Bobby Abraham.
Hi.
Hi, Bobby.
Hello. You described your early life as you were an atheist and you only felt like your career was the only thing you needed to focus on.
Yeah.
And years later, you've completely dropped that career and you are practicing full time in this Zen Buddhist tradition.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what was that transition like for you? And at what point did you decide to completely let go of your career rather than, do this practice in your career at the same time?
Yeah, I know, shock horror, Yeah, I had this kind of, I had career that people, some of my friends told me, it's like, most people want to be like that, have that kind of work and all the benefits that went along with it. And, I followed that thinking for a very, very long time. And it's only until I met Zen Master Song San and started practicing, I began to see that there was another whole world out there that, that just work was such a tiny, tiny part of. It's like minuscule. And my idea was it was such a small, insulated, hermetically sealed kind of idea of how things should be. And when I started to listen to talks and practice, I suddenly realized, wow, and then I went to my first retreat at Shimansa's in 1993, and I came back, and my colleague said to me, what happened to you? You don't seem to really not so bothered by work anymore. You're supposed to be a young tiger. You're supposed to be ambitious and want to get to the top. And I said, what's there? And then they were like, what do you mean? What's there? We all got to get to the top. And I was like, and I completely kind of lost this idea of being ambitious. And I mean, not totally, but something that kind of planted this seed inside that was sort of still developing. And, it just got me to see that there was something else. What's this life about, really? What is my life about, really? Is it all about just, getting that corner office on a high floor with a good view and having these, like my bosses were all into these designer suits and fancy watches. Like one of them said to me, hey, there's this this limited edition watch going on sale. I was in Hong Kong at the time, so everybody's like into all this showing off the whatever they have. And I said, no, I just had this like cheap Casio, thing which worked. And then he said, let's go queue and buy this limited edition watch. It'll be worth a lot of money. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do that. So this realization, slowly came. It's like, these things are not that important. They are necessary for, maintaining a certain life, like being able to pay your rent, putting food on the table, clothes to wear. But everything on top of that is kind of like bonus, But what's really important? What's our life all about? I think that was the key question that really bugged me for a while. I actually, when I was young, I remember when I was at school age, like 14 or 15, I remember something happened. I was really unhappy. So I was spending holidays with my cousins, and I just wrote on this piece of paper, like, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Like doing lines, I couldn't get this out of my head. Then my cousin looked at it and said, what the hell are you doing? I said, I don't know. I said, who am I? That's really stupid. And I felt so stupid when he said that. And he really made it fun of me. And then from there on, I never dared ask that question until I met Zen Masters Dae Bong. It was like, that went out of my head. But I remember that it was still there. I was thinking, what? So that's the question that really I think all of us are looking to answer. And when we actually experience that, maybe we have a chance to be more kind, more helpful, more compassionate, more wise. But that's essentially, what you do, whatever you do is okay, as long as you have a certain direction in your life. What's your direction? And in Zen way of saying, what am I? And then that gives you a lot of freedom. Whatever you do, it's not that one thing you do is particularly good or bad, but why do you do it? That's the important question, I think. So I think I went off point. I can't remember. Have I managed to answer your question?
That was perfect. Thank you.
Sorry if I ramble on, I'm getting old.
We have another question from Juliana.
Hi, Juliana.
Hi there.
Hi.
Very nice to meet you. I'm going to change my question based on some of your recent stories. Your story about observing you and your colleagues caught up in maybe some of the materialistic or hollow aspects of corporate lifestyle, something like that, if that's a fair characterization. I think when I imagine someone in that position, I think that they would have the experience of realizing this is all hollow and I'm only doing it for me and I don't even care about this. And they would slowly transition to another job that was more a job of service, more obviously just a very, very different job. And maybe you will say, and that you did this, but not in a conventional sense. So my question is, did you think in those terms as well about changing one's job from for me to for you? If that makes sense.
No. It was at that time. It was just all for me, like I want this, and I think I should be like, before I met Zen Masters Dae Bong, I need to, really stake my place in the corporation, get to what I I need to get what I think I deserve, and all this kind of BS. But here, I that time, I think Francisco but when we had the whole single flower, not that one, but the one after, I think, I met this very interesting man, and I can't remember his name. I think it's Mark, somebody. He was Dutch from Holland, and at that time, I just had got this video camera, so I was very kind of enthusiastic. I thought I wanted to do kind of little interviews with people and then put them on YouTube to share, and I call it Zen in real life. So I would like talk to people and find interesting people, and I'd ask them about their life and how they practice and how maybe practicing helped them. So I met him, and he had a Filipino wife, and he was retired already. He was in his like 60s or something. So then he told me about his life, and I thought, wow, this person, such an interesting life. He, when he was young, he was born in Holland, of course, and he started to work for a bank, started at a very, very junior level. And his whole thing was just making as much money as he could. He worshipped at the altar of Mammon. And he thought, if I make lots of money, I will have freedom. That's what he thought. I will be free. Okay? So he was obviously very smart, very intelligent, and he got promoted all the way up to become the CEO of the investment bank in New York. CEO. Okay. So you can imagine he had like thousands of people working for him. And he said, I had everything I wanted. I had houses everywhere in different countries. This luxury holidays, he had a yacht, and he said, but you know what? I felt empty inside. All my life, he said, I was running this race, and I won. I won. I became the CEO. But where's the prize? There was no prize. And he said, I didn't feel any different. I thought I would feel free, but I didn't. And then he said, I had to do all these questionable things so that my bank could make money. Ethically questionable, I guess that's what he meant. Then he said, then I became depressed. And then I decided to quit my job because I didn't know what was going on. Then the next thing he did, I think which quite a lot of us do, he went to the self-help section of a bookstore, big bookstore. And he saw this like huge wall of self-help books, how to be this, how to be that, how to not be this. And he said, I read so many books, but they didn't help me. And eventually, I think he went to Sri Lanka, and he met a Buddhist monk there. And that was when he sort of saw a glimpse of the light of what he could do to find some kind of harmony inside, And then he started practicing. So he said to me, all my life, I've been on this outside journey to get money, and I thought that would give me freedom. And it's only now I've realized that actually the path is actually inside one, to look inside and just starting. So I think by that time he had moved to Singapore. I mean, he could live anywhere. He's so well off, but he was living in Singapore, and he started to go to the Zen Center there. And that's why he came to Korea for the whole single flower. And that was really, and I thought, wow, that's one of the best stories I've heard about, what it's like, because he did it. Most of us are just climbing the ladder, so we think that's a rainbow up there, there's a crock of gold, and everybody else is climbing, but you don't get to the top. Most of us don't get to be the 1%, and I think if you check out the 1%, you'll find that quite a lot of them aren't really happy, aren't satisfied with their lives. They've got to make their next billion before they're happy. And it's not about what you have. It's about how you live your life, how you use what you have. So, yeah, so that's what I think. Fortunately, some people find that out, some people don't, but those who do, and I guess you are one of the lucky ones who realize that, have a good shot at actually finding a bit more happiness and joy in their life. Okay? Okay.
We have a question from Sergey Kostenko.
Hi, Sergey.
Hello. Hi, everyone. So, actually, a very exciting story. And if you can tell another story like that, it would be great. Probably interview someone else. But after you answer my question, and my question is there something like some piece of information or some knowledge that had the most, or advice, I guess, you know, and Zen-wise, like school-wise, right? In this context, as we are talking right now, that had the most impact on your life, probably something the most exciting, something that you want to share with us. Yeah.
I don't know.
Or probably what you did for the practice, or, you know, yeah. I don't know how else to put it.
This, you know, I mean, to be honest, when I first started practice, I was in a bit of a fog, you know. It's like, you know, what's going on here? Because I had no idea about religion or even Buddhism. I mean, I was really coming from a point of zero. And everybody else seemed to know what they're talking about, but I had no idea. And I remember one time I was like, I really connected with all the talks that Zen Master and Subong, Zen Master, gave. And I remember one day I was at this was in the early months of my introduction to Zen, and he was giving a talk about, you know, a great awakening, getting enlightenment. And then I was sat at the back. What is that? Special people get that, you know? So then he said, I finished his talk, and any questions? And I said, yeah. I stick my hand out. I said, do you have to be a monk or a nun to get enlightenment? Then he sort of burst out laughing, and then Dae Kwan was sitting next to him translating, and she burst out laughing. And I felt, oh, I must have asked a stupid question. And then he said, no. So, but there have been many things, I think, which really resonated with me. I can't think of anyone in particular because there have been so many. You know, when you have listened to as many teachings and met so many great teachers as we have in our school, there's so many things you can learn. You know, it doesn't have to be any one big thing, but sometimes it's just these little things that you do. If you pay attention to what's going on, you can learn a lot, and not just from teachers, but from anyone. And you know, everyone is a potential good teacher for us. So it's not the one thing. It's just many little things sometimes. Even my dogs are good teachers for me sometimes. You know. So it's amazing how much you can learn if you're present and paying attention. And I guess maybe that's it, to be present, to practice being present, to come back to this moment. You know, it's okay. You know, our mind does drift, and you know, I'm sure some of you have already come across this Harvard study where they found that your mind, on average, wanders 50% of the time. So I don't know how long we've been talking, maybe half an hour or so. And our mind has been wandering 30 minutes of that. So our mind wanders, but that's the practice. When we notice it, getting caught up in thoughts wandering, we come back to our breath, come back to our mantra, whatever. And that builds a habit of training ourselves to pay attention more, to be present more. What's the name of this actor that was in the Bill Murray, this Ghostbusters guy? Very, very funny guy. I love him. And he was interviewed by one famous American journalist, I can't remember, TV interview. And this was a few years ago. And by this time, Bill Murray was like the kind of like the granddad of comedy kind of thing, or quirky comedy, as you would say. And he asked him, Bill, you've accomplished so many things in your life already. Everything you've had, fame, money, fortune. What is it that you don't have that you would like more of? And then Bill Murray kind of like paused for a minute, sat back, and he said, I would really like to be here more, to be more present. He said, I can just imagine if I was more here, how much more I could do with my life. And that's all he wanted, to be more present. So I think that is part of our practice. If we learn to be more here, right now, we could really, live our lives fully. And who doesn't want that? Okay?
Can I quick follow up?
Sure.
You said you can learn from anyone.
Yes.
And so can you is there any example of when you learned from something simple, like, I don't know, a dog or a squirrel, as I understand, or from a simple person? I can imagine learning from a Zen master or JDPS, Sunim, for example, right? People who have a lot of experience. Want to pay attention next time, probably somewhere else, through your example, like, yeah.
No.
If you remember.
Yeah, I got to think about this one. But, I would really say, I'm sorry, this is just my personal opinion. Don't get so hooked up on titles, okay? And, I'm, like I said, I was always an atheist, agnostic. So I've been very kind of skeptical about things. So I really want to know, regardless of what, lofty title someone has, get to really know the person before I have my trust in him. And the interesting thing with the Zen Master Song San was I didn't know what a Zen Master was. I had no idea. I didn't know him from Jack. It's just some title I had no idea. But when he spoke, and I did ask him a question, and it's too long to go into it. He answered, he really hit me in the gut. It was like, really, I felt literally winded by his answer. And then that moment on, I realized, wow, he is the real deal. He's really someone that I can put my faith in. And that was from just that interaction. So, and it wasn't about all the things they said about how grand or how great it was. It was just that connection that he made in that moment. It's like in Zen, we have this metaphor of two arrows meeting in midair. It was like that. It was like an electric shock moment. So I don't know. There are many things you can. I think maybe like yeah, I remember this little tree in Musangsa, not a big one, and it's on the corner of the, just outside the interview room. I don't know if those of you know it. And then, for some reason, it all dried up. There was no leaves on it anymore, and we thought, it's died. It's not going to, we're going to have to dig it up. It wasn't such a big deal because it wasn't a very tall tree. It was like maybe. And it wasn't very we thought we were going to have to dig it up. And then somehow we didn't get around to it that quickly. And then the next season, it started to blossom. The leaves came back. So we thought, that's amazing. We thought this was dead. It was like, it looked completely shriveled up and whatever. But somehow it came alive again. So I think that's really taught me about the resilience of nature and also the resilience of us. Kind of like, we think sometimes, that's it, I can't do anymore. I've got so much further to go. But you never stop to think how far you've come. We never really think, I've come all this way, So all I have to do is just take the next step. You may not know what's in front of you, you don't know, but at least you can take one step in front of you. And I think that little tree really taught me something about how resilient and how kind of, how resilient nature is and how resilient we are also in relation to that. We can see, we go through many challenges. Everyone struggles at some time in their life. But as long as you keep going, you'll get through it. So that's the law of impermanence, that everything keeps changing. So as long as we don't kind of cling to a certain situation, then you can just flow with whatever is happening and go with it.